Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to an episode of Pressing Forward podcast. And the guest that I have with me this evening, I did this last time when I had an author on here. I might as well start it off with this poem that he has that I find impactful. I think it's a great one. It's titled "Would You Ever Go Back?" That question deserves an answer that is neither quick nor slow to explain. I would go back to the times with my brothers, standing around making jokes of one another, not knowing which one took at last or which one to look at last, seeing as this night would be our last. Tiny moments in my mind, but the largest of cherished times. I would go back to the muggy, tireless foot patrols, the agonizingly slow mounted patrols, scanning in both for the underground death dealers and limb takers. I would go back to that night where we stood on that hill, overlooking Sangin, taking that picture, all of us resilient, masters of our war, enduringly looking forward to home, not yet wanting to leave the home we fought for. I would go back to the beautiful landscapes, colossal mountaintops, jagged rising slopes, the oozing poppy fields, dried up wadis, with their river rocks and sometimes indirect fire. And that was written out of the book The Sun Rises in Helmand by Justin Eggen. That's who I've got tonight. Justin, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? Sometimes the sun rises in Helmet, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's like a good way to correlate a lot of things to the situations that we deal with. I guess we're just gonna jump right in, but the sun will rise another day, like through all the shit that
Right.
you've been through. Even in the Helmand province, when the shit hits the fan and you feel like there's no end in sight, um, the sun rises the next day. So,
Right.
how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I feel like a little sick.
It sounds like it,
I have
but
I got this big nose and it just collects like dust and stuff and it just like sucks in a bunch of air and I just get sick. And like I feel like I can't breathe right now. Like I told my son's mom that I was like having like dreams or like I feel like I couldn't breathe. Like I've
and
been waking up in the middle of the night, like not breathing. Like I've my body, like I wake up and I'm trying like gasping for air. Like
have you been
lately,
diagnosed with sleep apnea?
I don't know.
You should get that. You should check that out, dude. Because I started doing. Well, I did that a while ago, but I never used the fucking thing. And when I started using it, I was like sleeping better because like you like wake up in the middle and you never get a full night's sleep or resting. The
Right.
sleep apnea thing, it helps you breathe
See,
throughout the night
that's the
so you
thing is
stay
like
asleep.
I feel like I'm having these nightmares, man. Like I'm definitely having like nightmares or dreams or whatever. Like I can't breathe. Like I'm all in here. Like I just like the air is just not going to my lungs, And I'm just like, and then I wake up and then I'm like, and I have to like gasp for air, and I'm like, bro, and like I'm like breathing. But like you asked me how I'm doing, and like that's where we
That
went.
that's where we went. Hey, it's all good, dude. Because
Yeah.
do you ever think that like I mean, I think of like the dreams that I have where I'm like crushing my teeth, like where like I'll in my dreams, like I'm clenching so hard that my teeth literally shatter, and I'll wake up and my fucking like I've been like grinding my teeth like hard, and I have a night guard. I have to get it constantly replaced because I just
Really?
fucking like saw through it, dude. It's crazy. But yeah, I don't know. That's I haven't woken up like not being able to breathe. That does not sound enjoyable whatsoever.
Uh, I mean, neither does grinding your teeth, though. I mean, honestly, like, I, mm, I don't know.
Yeah, that there's some other activities that had me fucking sawing away like a madman. I don't know if that's if those two go hand in hand, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I've made some mistakes in my life, and gone the had the ups and downs and the all around. So here we are.
yeah,
Um, give I mean, I know this isn't your first time doing this. Obviously, um, I think you're a pretty well-known guy, especially among the infantry community. At least the guys that I know that obviously they all gravitate towards your books. I think I have all. I know that I have. What's the fictional book that you wrote? Adahe, how do you say
oh
that?
yeah, Adahy.
Adahe, yeah, I thought
So
Adahe, but yeah,
I say it very like not, I guess, not the way that people say it, you know what I mean? How like the for people, how people, I think that they
Pronounce it.
how think because I think that like I've heard it, and it's definitely like it sounds elegant when you don't say it, Adahi. When you say it like Adahi, it sounds very like, I don't know how to say it, very
Well, see, that's the thing. Like you're the one who fucking wrote it, so it sounds however you want it to sound, you know?
yeah, I don't know,
You're the
just
you're
I don't know. Yeah, that's one of those things, man. Like Adahi's, do you like it? That's the thing. So do you like the story? I mean, I have to, I feel like it's kind of all over the place sometimes. So like I don't know.
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, if you're all over the place, you got to have that creative mind, like always fucking going crazy. And obviously, writing how many books is it? Seven of them that you have put out?
I actually, on like December, this last December, I published my 10th book, dude.
10. Well, shit.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I told
No, dude,
the
don't, please don't. It's all
No,
right.
but dude, I like supporting, and not that I'm trying to suck your dick or anything, because I mean, it's like you're just another dude, but another dude that is able to convey a message in like a lot of ways that, and I know when I say among the infantry community, I know that you are a combat engineer, but all my guys that I know have these books are all grunts, and obviously you can correlate a lot to that because of the way that it's written. Maybe you didn't have the same experience, but it's all relative, obviously. I mean, that you wrote it for, you know,
Right.
yourself, but to connect with the other guys. And another fucking thing that I
Yeah.
absolutely love is this right here. Every single one, every single book has a little message written in the top of it, and
It
signed.
looks like it's done quick.
Yeah, well, hey, I mean, I'm sure if you're pumping out quite a few books, it gets a little tiring signing
Ah,
something and writing a message. It's like, hey, fuck you, I'm tired of writing these messages. Stop buying my books,
nah, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, like what happens is, the poetry and the books aren't like are really ever never like the main like focus of like, how I have to sustain my actual life. You know what I'm saying? So the books are very much exterior extracurricular activities, whatever, however that is, sounds whatever, but like, so when I'm doing everything, it's like I have this, I get the books in the mail, and it's like I got a stack. I'm like, all right, dude, I'm gonna definitely, I definitely write personal messages, and it's not like it's 1,000 books or 500 books or anything, but it's definitely, when you have a job and your kid and everything, it's definitely, it's a bit much sometimes to always try to, because I do want to write like something that's personal from me, you know what I mean? That it is like a message that I would say to somebody if they bought my book and they're like, "Can you please sign it?" You know what I mean? Like, all right, this
Yeah.
is what I would say, you know. So it's not. I don't try to just be like, "Hey, fuck off and kick the book." You know what I mean? I do try to write
No,
something.
I know you do, man. You do. And it's like that is a testament right there to the reason why you do it. You know what I'm saying? Um, just as something as simple as Michael, I hope you enjoy the words, with your signature. That right there is like you're making a personal connection to go out of your way to like know that somebody's supporting you. And that was like the point that I was, going to make is when I see another veteran, out there doing something, it's not just like, okay, it's a t-shirt company. Okay, there's some sick logos, there's some cool hats, people have cool stickers and stuff. Maybe they donate to charity. But being able to put these words down and like do the things the way that you do, that makes a huge impact on a lot of fucking people. So I think it's pretty cool to see that, you've done that and continue to do that. And I didn't know that you had another couple books out. I was talking with, I think you might know him, Brian Basho. Are you familiar with who he is?
Yeah, Brian, a good friend. Yeah,
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I know that you guys obviously know each other. Um, but the reason why I started buying your books is when I listened to his podcast, like I didn't know who you were and before that. and I listened to his podcast probably in like 2020 or something. I don't know what year it was. One of like the first ones that he had done,
Hmm.
and started just like following along and buying the books and everything. And I mean, like I told you, like I have a couple of them. I have two of them down here, but some of the other ones, in the bathroom, they're like you could pick it up and read a quick story or a poem while you're in the
Right.
bathroom taking a shit. It's people come over and they're like, oh, that's pretty funny, or that I like that. I never thought of that. Um, did you find it as, and I have said this before, I said this to Mason. I was like, do you find it as a form of therapy? And like, obviously knowing that it's a release though, like writing this stuff down, do you feel that like it's kind of like every time you put it to paper, does that take a little more weight out of your pack, or like how does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the poetry itself is a good expression of human behavior all around in any format, right? Like people can write poetry. And by I mean poetry, I mean not like, you know, shitty like journaling and like being angry and screeching about like, whatever.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me
Actually,
stop you there while you say that. I have to ask you what you think of the I mean, I know this is completely different, but this was a question that I was thinking of. Um, what do you think of like the veteran poetry community? Like I feel like you and probably like Aaron Kirk and like the Dead Reckoning Collective probably are some of like the first people. And I mean, it kind of, I don't want to say caught on as a fad or a trend, but you just see it everywhere now. Like a lot of people writing shit.
is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, you telling me, dude. I'm asking you. Like, you probably. I mean, I would think that as another author of poetry, and you're putting this, like, you have to be in tune with what else is coming out. Like, do you not get sent shit or see shit?
No, not at all. Not, I mean, honestly, and I think that's where a lot of my own personal like biases like come in, right? Like I have a very competitive personality and I it's not like I view like, all these people that are writing poetry as like competition or whatever it is, you know what I mean? But it's the veteran poetry community is very um unique, right? It's a very unique thing that we're however many people are doing this, right? Because when I was writing my first book, I mean, I think I have it right here, maybe. I think I got all my books right here. Some of them. So when I was writing my first book, this thing,
Okay, I have that as well. Yep.
right? So when I was writing that book, I was thinking to myself, what's an area that like it makes me feel good, right? By doing this, by writing like some haikus and some poet and like some poems and like yesterday the sun came up, suicide poem, like she smiles, she speaks, um a few short stories that I wanted to write in there. But when I was doing that, I looked on like social media channels and Facebook and the internet. I Googled on Amazon. I went on Amazon and Googled like there wasn't many veteran like poets. There was none. There was a void, I guess you could say. Like there was a void of veterans writing poetry. So I was like, well, I'm doing this right now. Like I wrote this poem in 2014 or whatever, and I wrote some poems in middle school or whatever, but I wrote this poem in 2014 called Not Today, and I passed it on along to like some of my friends that served in Sangin and Marja and stuff, and a bunch of my buddies, and they all were just like, you need to continue doing this. Like this is something that you need to continue doing. And this was, again like 2014. So I was like, all right. So I started thinking about it more, and I didn't write another poem until I committed to myself. I was like, all right, I'm gonna write a book. Like I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna write a book. And this was 2016. I told myself like I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna write a book. And then again, I was looking, and this was when I started looking. Was like the end of 2016. I started looking on like everywhere, like Instagram, Facebook, basically like Twitter. Trying to find channels where veterans were publishing poetry on their own, or doing it in a fashion that was about war, about what they experience in war, about um the overall aspect of the humans in warfare, right? But now post 9/11, not
Right, that's what I was going to ask you. Is it like, did when you say that there's that void, do you mean from like, obviously there's, plenty of stuff written from previous conflicts, in the wars, World War
right.
II, Vietnam, Korea, the short
Vietnam
stories, and
has an incredibly impressive amount of veteran poetry about warfare.
it's probably because they came back and were smoking bud and like eating
Yeah.
acid or something and just writing shit down, like
And
they're
then and nobody really pays attention to that, but you know what I mean? And that's unfortunate because a lot of but like World War One poetry has a lot of very distinct, famous war poetry, right? Like that's where war poetry kind of I don't want to say like originated, you know what I mean? But that's kind of where it like became relevant in like pop culture in like the United States, with um Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen. All these dudes were John McCrae were writing all these poems, and they were being published, and people were reading them because there was no TVs, there was no none of this. They were reading these poems. There was a
right,
big wars, it was a great wars. It was a giant war. People they were dying, and they were publishing these poems of these men that were dying that died that wrote these poems, a few months before they died, whatever it is, like in Flanders Fields, like I have a rendezvous with death. All of these are poems that have a distinct like like inherent understanding of like war, and like it gives you like that like gritty feel of like World War One, how it really
right,
felt,
right.
right,
No, definitely. There's
through
no
their
videos, there's no pictures that were taken, so they use their words to
right,
depict the things that were going on. And I mean, not that I have any, copies of the books, but there's plenty of stuff that's been posted and you read it, and it's so elegantly detailed, the destructive, like,
right. No, it's
view
perfect.
of what the war was. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like their words were able to just depict it in a way that made you feel like you were seeing it. And
right. It's literally perfect, right? And then you have we have poetry from World War II. You have poetry from conflicts and stuff, but at the end of the day, like post 9/11, outside of Brian Turner, I mean, legendary poet. He served in the army. Um, he was like a very well known poet in the early 2000s after the Iraq invasion, like 04, 05, 06, 07. He's very prolific and like very good writer, very good poet. But regardless, he was like the only one that I could really see after, again, like post 9/11. So I was like, all right, well, this is an area where poetry, like I feel like I could, maybe like make some form of like I could do something, like I could plant myself here and be like, all right, all the, this is, I could write poetry and I could express myself and I could be, creative, and I could talk about my experiences in war because of I felt so fluid about it because I went through like this pretty very good therapy for like 4 years, a few years with this lady at the VA like vet centers, and
yeah,
I did good therapy with her, and that like really opened me, allowed me to like see and view all of the things that I did in Afghanistan in like a different light, which I guess allowed me to address it. You know what I mean? Which, and then with the poetry, I addressed it. I went through it and I dissected
right.
it, and I talked about it through the poetry. And then once I wrote my first book, then David Rose hit me up and he was like, "Yo, dude, I I I wrote a poetry book. It's coming out when sometime soon." And I like looked up to David Rose. I read his his first or the book that he wrote, Spin Shell Casings, I believe was what it was originally called. It might have been, I think it's been changed now. But I can't remember. My fucking head is fucking killing me.
Well,
But
let me ask you, did the vet center counselor that you were working with or therapist that you were working with,
yeah,
did Was this in 2014 when you were doing that, or was that at a part, was 2014 around that time?
Yeah, no, it was right in the same.
Okay.
It was all connected, right? It would because yeah, and that's honestly probably where that's not. And thinking back, I've never really thought about the pinpoint of the exact, like the time frame of when I wrote that poem to like correlated it to that. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, it does make sense because I was doing like immersive, it's like sensory immersive like therapy where you sit back, you kind of go into like a meditative state, and then you start explaining in like hyper detail in all five senses the
Oh
event.
yeah, yeah. Prolonged exposure, right?
Yeah,
Prolonged,
dude.
is that's what it is? Prolonged
Something like
exposure.
that. I mean,
Yeah,
I,
that's at least that's what I know exactly what you're talking about. And you have to either write it down or talk it out. Like talk out
yeah,
the
so that's
entire,
what I did.
right.
I sat there in a chair and I like literally kicked back and I closed my eyes and I would just like go through all these experiences. I mean, for a couple of years, I mean, just going through for a week, a couple, sometimes I'd take 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, I'd come back and I'd go for a week, and I'd go for a day and spend I'd be in there for an hour, 2 hours, and I'd be going over everything, dude. I mean, not everything, but for the most part, 99%, 98% of everything that, like I went through in Afghanistan, went through in the Marine Corps, went through like, and then it started delving into like my personal life, like in my family and like my personal, like, and all of that, like growing up and personal things that I would go through as a kid and like solitude and shit, and like how I am now as an adult. And I don't know, it was great. Like it was overall like very healthy for me because without it, I don't think that I would have been able to find the trajectory that I'm on right now. And I
Got it.
would never have been able to like plant my feet to like boost myself up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
So
so it definitely helped me in that area, like I mean, it helped me overall in life. I mean, overall with everything. I mean, that's just, I guess, one aspect of it, right? So,
yeah. Well, that kind of like gives a, we went and did that original question that I had asked like 5 minutes ago or whatever. And I was like, do you think that it, before I was like, oh, what do you think about veteran poetry? But I mean, we all ultimately that led us to where that that question would have been. I was like, did you find poetry not as therapy? Because that's probably the wrong way to coin it or say it, but as like, obviously, I just want to hear you explain it, like that creative outlet that was able to
yeah,
give you the way to do it.
like I think when I wrote the first poem, I didn't, I had like a sense of within my life, I've always wanted to, um, I don't know, man, like make some form of a difference. You know what I mean? Like we all want to make a difference. We all want to do something that's gonna like impact other people in like a positive light. I think, you know what I mean? Sometimes maybe some people don't or whatever, but like I've always felt like that, and I always felt that, and I feel like I felt that a lot after like my second book or so or my third book because my first two books were really like I'm not gonna say that they were mainly for me, but I mean all my books are for me. Selfish me, right? Like they're all for me. They're just my books. But no, um, like those first two books are really like I dumped a lot of that stuff I talked about in therapy. Like in therapy, I talked, with her about things, and then I went and then I dumped it all. I mean, probably my first three books, yeah, because those are my biggest ones, dude. Like my first three books, the Outside the Wire books one and two, and
Yep.
then the Art of Warrior Poetry. Those three books are huge, and
Oh
like
yeah, did I where did
they
I thought I had that. Oh yeah, I do have it sitting over there. I was gonna,
like
yeah.
poetry wise, like those ones are fairly large, and like at the end of the day, I just dumped everything within like a because I spent the summer of 2017 writing my first book, and
Okay.
then I edited it in like the fall, or I had it edited in like the fall. I paid some lady to edit it, some like lady who wrote like she's like, oh, I wrote like 3,000, not 3,000. She's like, I wrote like 300 books or something. She wrote a shitload of books. She was insane, but she was a cool editor. She edited my book, and I published it right around like the Marine Corps birthday on 2000 in 2017, and then again that's when like David hit me up and was like, "Yo, you want to go on this book tour with like me and Leo Jenkins?" He's like this Army
Yeah.
Ranger. who writes poetry. He's putting out a poetry book as well. And I was like, oh shit! So there's like a few of us that are doing this, and we all organically arrived to
At the
this.
culminating point to this fucking book tour, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So it was like this. It all happened very like very natural. It all happened very natural, you know. And then yeah, we went on that book tour, and we did that for, and that, you know, they made that documentary movie. Alex said, and then it did its thing or whatever, and that's, and you know, we went to in like 2019, you know, later on we went to this to whatever, but like that like moment, I was like, damn, I thought to myself, I was like, damn, like I thought about this for, I've been thinking about this for the last like year, maybe two, and I'm finally putting out a book. Like I'm like, I wonder how long these dudes have been thinking about this as well, like maybe putting up poetry, you know what I mean? And like, because when my book published in 2017, I thought, I was like, damn, this is gonna be crazy because like either people are gonna like my poetry or they're gonna be like, this fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit. You
Keep your
know?
fucking day job, buddy.
Dude, for real. Like
Yeah.
it was rough, man. You know, like I didn't know what to do. Like I mean, it's not that I didn't know what to do. I knew I was gonna publish it. I knew I was gonna commit to it, and that's just what I was gonna do. You know, I was gonna go put on a fucking blazer and put on a suit and go try to fucking sell my books to people. You know what I mean? And that's, at the end of the day,
What
it
was that
felt
feeling
good.
like? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Shit. You just, yeah, it felt good. Tell me.
It like it felt good to be like, all right, well, these are my experiences, but my experiences are not that of a Navy SEAL or that of a Green Beret or that of a, you know, Dev Gru, whatever the fuck, high speed kicking, you know, whatever the hell you are with the fucking, you know, buzzsaw in your back taking outdoors and shit. You know, like I didn't do that. I was a normal guy. I got NJP'd, you know what I mean? I did
Yeah.
stupid shit. You know, I was an idiot, you know, and I had opportunities to like get behind a 50 caliber gun and like combat. And then I had other opportunities from that became to be like, oh, you're going to take a leadership role in our second deployment, blah, 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 whatever, whatever, whatever. So like, it
Well,
was
that's,
nice to like express yourself in a way that wasn't, well, I went through this really hard training and my dad prepared me, and then I went on this one mission and that was it, you know. And that's like, that's
yes.
so many of these like, you know,
Uh, I,
unfortunately, these
I
stories,
know
you know?
that's that was one of the driving factors behind me wanting to do this is because I'm at work all day listening to podcasts because I'm either driving a concrete conveyor or a semi truck moving stone. So I'm going, I have like an hour and a half drive this way, whatever. So I'm always listening to podcasts. And obviously I'm gravitated more towards the military podcast stuff.
Mm.
I can relate to it and, whatever. Brian Basho definitely was like one of the first like guys that I'd listened to that interviewed regular Marines, dude. Like not most everything was, and I'm sure there's others out there, like I'm sure that there's like the Black Rifle Coffee one. I'm pretty sure Andy Stump had interviewed a couple Marines. I know Brian Chantosh was on there. But it's also focused on this special warfare mindset, or not mindset, but advertising, and that's
Right,
cool that those guys did that. They went to Coronado and balanced a beach ball on their head for fucking 9 months. It's like, and they call them a Navy. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. They went through some rigorous training. They did some hardcore shit. They got unlimited funding and were able to do some like really cool high speed missions. And
right,
not that I negate any of their experiences whatsoever. I'm sure somebody's might see this and be like, and fuck this guy. Like, who does he think it is? But at the end of the day, in almost every book that's been written or every, documentary that's been done, there's always a mention of the special forces or the conventional forces guys. More often than not, you talk to, like, would you rather have an army infantry unit or like an army platoon come support you or a Marine Corps platoon? And they're like, obviously a fucking platoon of Marines. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I have like personal stories from guys that, attest to that. But it's everybody's so focused on the cool guy shit. How many
Right.
tubes are on your nods? Are there two? Are there four? They forget about the
I had
guys with the
one
fucking exactly. They forget about the guys with the PVS 14 and a saw that was probably from maybe after
with the
Desert
purple
Storm.
barrel.
Yeah, dude. Man, like this, like everything's worn away, and
The
whatever.
C4
It's
from 1969.
yeah, serious. This is FN's first production of the M249 saw, and you will be taking this with you to Afghanistan. Like, all right, man. All
Sir.
right. But it's like I think it's cool to talk to you because I know that you're on that wavelength, and obviously you are. And again, this is not to like bash on any of those guys. I hope that nobody would ever like that's not my objective, but it's so like I don't know, more advertised, and people kind of put the regular dudes, they forget that they sacrificed and they did shit just as hardcore.
And that's the thing is
So
that at the end of the day, like you're saying, it's and the word advertise is a very, very good like way to put it is that when people mainstream and mainline that shit like that soft shit because that's what people think is like cool and that's what they see in modern warfare and that's what they see in Battlefield and they're like, oh, that's what they grow up playing. And the last 20 years has been the fucking propaganda, ridiculousness. But that's a whole different story. But at the end of the day, like that stuff is mainlined to people because that stuff sells to the young, like the youth, who then go and get recruited.
yeah, that's
You know?
I was talking about that with another dude, and that's like you think like, where do you best mold and sculpt somebody, either somebody that's been out in life for a few years and has been on their own and had a job, and maybe those guys will be some just as easy, but obviously when you get a kid that's fresh out of high school that has no life experience, and they either raised or weren't raised by their parents, and however their lives worked their way up to being at boot camp, like
Mhm.
it's designed for young men to get broken down and rebuilt into their image of what they think is somebody who's going to excel, or what the idea of it is. But you and I both know that obviously through Marine Corps boot camp there was people that you were like, what the fuck are you doing here, dude? Like, what are you doing here?
Oh, we had
uh
one. Yeah, we had one. For sure. He left for sure.
well,
They
it's
say like, all right, you're leaving, dude.
yeah, like no more of you. It's funny, just I don't know, there's so many funny stories, and and that's another thing. I think people want to focus so much on, tell me about show me your war face, like,
Right.
oh, I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy talking about those things, but
Yeah, it's fun,
it's
but
how many times, and again, same thing. Like, who the fuck cares what you and I are saying? I do, you do. That's why we're here doing this, but we don't know who's going to hear this or see it. And it's like,
right.
if you can generalize things and make it easy to relate and understand to the way that we perceive the information that we've been given and all the things that we're taking in, you're able to bridge. That's as I always say, like bridging the gap between the misunderstandings there are out there within the veteran community itself, and also within the veteran to civilian disconnect. Like, you are making it like I said to you, my mom has read some of your stuff. Like, obviously she comes over to the house. My mom's very involved with supporting me, and I'm very my whole family is. I'm very fortunate for that. They all stood behind me with everything. But my mom likes to see, like, she loves my friends. She knows so many. I would bring guys home on leave. I'm not kidding, five at a time. And they would come stay at my fucking house. I've gone to travel and visit so many dudes, and my mom's always asking about guys that I served with that she's met. So when she sees somebody, and you and I did not serve together, um, but writing these books, and then she has a disconnect with me because I feel like I don't want to tell her certain things, or I have a hard time explaining to where she's going to understand. And then you come along and put stuff like this down on paper, and somebody picks that up and they read through that, and it gives them a better idea of a way to put it where, you know, this is the feelings that are going on inside, and not everybody has the ability to convey that the way that you do. So I mean, that's another fucking huge impact, another thing you got to think about. It's not just veterans that are reading your stories. It's the moms, the dads, the brothers, the sisters, the wives, the husbands. And it goes for everything. If all branches. Obviously, you and I being Marines, it's easier for us to you know understand each other regardless of, we all have something in common. And that's the thing that should be understood. Everyone wants to talk about supporting the veteran community. Well, what are you actually doing to support it? Like, where do you go out there and put yourself on paper or the mat or in the gym or in nonprofit organizations to be able to contribute back and give something? It's I think we're lacking in that area, and that's kind of what I want to be able to do with having conversations with guys like you and
I
girls
think,
too, women.
yeah, and I think that's what you're doing. Um, at the end of the day, that's what needs to be done. I think that the stories need to be shared, right? And it's there's a time and a place for the high speed, low drag, kind of guys, the secret squirrel stuff, all that. There's a time and place for that, but there's also, I think we do need to start carving out a time and a place for, the guy that just went over there and served as, maybe like some supply guy, and
Yeah,
maybe his cousin or something is like some infantry dude, and his cousin is like telling him all this crazy shit, you know what I mean? And and then his cousin ends up getting killed or something happens, you know what I mean? And like,
yeah,
and then he's all fucked up, So it's like there's there's so many different individualized like aspects and stories to the veteran community. And we need to, as a community, like somehow cultivate that, somehow cultivate
well,
those stories, right? And like do that. And I think that that's what this is, right? That's so it's
yeah. Oh,
like
100%. I
that's
mean,
what,
like,
as a podcast, you have the ability to grab individualized stories, and then you can
yes,
speak to these individualized stories and go, okay, da 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 da, and then people go, all right, so that, like you're saying, and again with like your mom reading the poetry, like that's beautiful, dude. You know what I mean? Like that's an amazing thing. And I've always thought about that. I've had um this dude that lives in Palm Beach County. He passed away. He was in the army, and he passed away in Afghanistan. And his mom like reads my books, and she's she feels, I guess, connected and stuff, or whatever it is. But there's something there, and that is definitely why I do it. That's why I write it, because it's not only does it, because I'm not gonna lie, man. That's what I was saying earlier, is that like my first three books were very much like like I just dumped out so much of my own personal shit, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And then every book that I've written since then has kind of been a challenge to myself, to like, when I wrote my fourth book, The Sun Rises in Helmand, I wanted to write a book that strictly spoke about like Helmand, and also because I was when I started writing those smaller books like The Sun Rises in Helmand, From Now Until Death I Shall, War and Select Poems, 10 years ago, 10 years later, and then Liberty Subverted. When I started writing all these like little smaller poetry books that are like under 50, 60 poems or whatever, those books are very like, if you think of like a music artist, they're like mixtapes, I guess,
yeah, yeah,
you know? And the first three books I wrote were like albums of like, effectively.
yeah. I was gonna say, because the first book, what is it? Just is it called? Was it Tales from Outside the Wire?
This is Outside
Or
the Wire,
yeah,
U.S. Marines
yeah,
Collection of
yeah.
Combat Poems and Short Stories,
It's
Volume 1.
well, what I like about that is, and I've read that all the way through, both Outside the Wire. But you read that through, and it's progressive in a sense of, the same thing I Mason did with Rock Eater. It like shows a progression to a storyline, and correlates those stories with a certain moment in time. And not that it wouldn't be, able to just like jumble it all together and be able to take it in different parts, but it kind of plays itself out, and it's, it has momentum, I guess you would say, like to carry you through to the end of it. And I think that that's the way that it's so many people. I was like, damn, starting to think about those times on deployment where you're first getting there, and where you were, was it the first deployment that you were a combat replacement, right? You went,
Yeah,
didn't you go in as a combat replacement?
yeah,
And it's not, I'm just thinking of that start to finish kind of thing of the individual deployments, and it makes you think. And in some people that may be triggering, or to revert back and to think to those moments. But
right.
if you're ready for something like that, and that's what it's, not everybody wants to be involved and remember and reminisce or utilize those as like outlets or ways to, understand certain shit. But with the right time and doing therapy and talking about things. And I think that's, probably one of the biggest things is, you don't have to talk to your mom or your dad. You don't have to, talk to the boys. But also I think it's beneficial to go talk to a professional that knows what they're doing. Like
You have to be
I
open to it though.
yeah, no, that you're right.
You
You
have to
do
be
have to be
like,
ready.
you definitely have to be open to doing it. You have to be accepting of it and you have to want to do it. I mean, it's like anything that's actually going to help you in your life, right? Which I think is a big revelation for human beings when they realize it, is that anything that's actually going to help you or uplift you, you're going to have to want to do it, right? You can't not want to be successful and then go be successful. That's not how it
Right. It
works.
does it, you're not entitled to it. It's not just gonna land in your fucking lap.
No, because look at the people when they are like entitled. Yeah, you're entitled for 46 years, but then you shoot your son in the chest with a shotgun, you shoot your wife, and you're going to prison for life, and there's a Netflix docu-series about you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's, yeah, you're entitled for a while, or whatever it is, but I mean, so many of those wealthy people that live like that have very like negative endings, you know what I mean? And honestly, and maybe if you're just a good person, I think is what I'm trying to say. If you're just a good person and you want to do the things that are going to help you and not be self-destructive and move forward, then going to like a vet center and speaking to somebody, or going to a therapist and speaking to somebody about any type of like trauma, mental health problems that you're having, any issues that you want to work through that you don't really that you can't fully grasp with your own mind and your own understanding, and you need somebody else to be like, hey, let me help you wrangle this in. And
Yeah.
once we wrangle it in, let's break this fucking thing.
Yeah.
Let's break this Mustang. You know what I mean? You're like, all right. And then
Definitely.
that Mustang's a fucking demon. You know what I mean? You break that thing, and now you got this demon. You can just kind of be like, we're good.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
Okay.
like
So you
you
can,
don't control me, like
yeah,
I'm in
like
control of my own thoughts and my own. And a friend of mine, Tyler, he said that to me the other day. We were talking about something, and he's like, you have the power to control what you're thinking. Like to be, if you get in your head about something, it's because you allowed yourself to like either overthink it or doubt the ability for you to, whatever, break through that wall and, get to the other side. But I don't know. I think that the whole entitlement thing and people thinking that they need to be given something because of something that they've done, and it's a thing that's constantly reiterated. And I know I've said it
that's what the
before, and
veteran community talks about, dude. I talk about it. I
yeah,
talk about it at my work. I said this the other day, not the other day, but like 6 months ago. I said, the problem with engagement, right? And this is a problem with veteran engagement overall and the veteran community, is that veterans don't want to do anything at all. Like if it doesn't provide, like if it's weird. I don't want to say like if it doesn't provide the money or whatever the case, but I mean like I want to say that veterans are like, we've served, we don't need to engage with anything. We're good. Like
yeah,
we've done what we need to do. You can engage with whoever you want to engage with, but I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want to do, and nobody's gonna bother me. and you're gonna leave me the fuck alone, and I'm just gonna chill, and that's what it's gonna be. And it's like, well, don't you want to come out and like hang out with the boys, like celebrate, like Veterans Day or whatever? You're like, no, I don't. You're like, all right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's very the veteran. It's very the engagement is not there with because there's like this, because a lot of veterans haven't worked through a lot of their issues, right? A lot of veterans are
Okay, so you're saying because of the fact that they haven't done some sort of therapy or counseling, and not any fault on
maybe
them, they're not ready, but they don't want to break out of that shell to be able to be like, hey, yeah, I'll come out and hang out with you guys and have a beer or partake in a Veterans Day, activity or whatever. Like they're not ready for that, right?
maybe that's it. I mean, it could be theoretically, like that could be a theory. You know what I mean? That we could use that as theory A. We could go through some more, but like maybe, dude. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, I mean, but maybe they don't want to go out because they're just like that broke my ankle. I can't go out. Like
Yeah, you never know.
it's like so then and then that's a different situation. That's a whole different thing. But like at the end, what I see from my eyes and my perception and what I view and the people that I interact with and what I see is that it's very much like veterans feel that I've served and I've done my time, I've done my duty. I don't need to like engage with whatever you want me to do because I'm not contractually obligated to do that for you. I
Right,
don't.
but do you think that that's a bad mindset to have? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, that's
yeah,
what. Okay, okay.
for sure. Because at the end of the day, like again, if this a lot of times that people are like, "Hey, dude, come out and do this," da 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 da. What I find is like you're gonna go have a great time.
Yeah.
Like you're just grant like you may be pissed off and like, man, I don't want to fucking go, you know what I mean? Blah blah blah. And you get like dragged out there, but you show up and you're like, you know what? This is actually kind of fun, this is pretty cool. So that's the problem, is that that's another problem, right? Is that like veterans think I think that veterans think that when they maybe they don't realize that like if they seized opportunities that are presenting themselves to them, right? Like people been like, "Hey, man, do you want to, do you want to give $25 to this? You know what I mean? This veteran organization." And you're like, "What is it?" And you're like, "I don't know. It's just like the DAV or the wound, maybe not wounded warrior, but like the DAV and like
Oh yeah, I know plenty of good nonprofit organizations,
right,
and like
you know what I'm
where the
saying?
money is going, and they
Right.
have the ability to get out there and put an application in and go do something different. And I advocate for that fucking wholeheartedly. And even when you said that you're going to the vet center, like I do, so January to now I haven't, but next week I do every Tuesday. I go to the
Nice.
vet center or I do a Zoom or like was it the VA online app or whatever, like the secure
Yeah.
fucking messaging system. Um, do that, and I was doing that since the summer of 2019. I finally made the decision, and that was 5 years after I got out. Like I had tried to jump around to a few different things, but it wasn't until I found the right person to work with, and I moved from Colorado back home. But like finding
And
the
that
right
that
person to
that
work
it's a
with,
big deal when you move.
yeah. And after you've been working with somebody and got connected with this guy at the local vet center in Chicago, and he's been awesome. I mean, the guy's been there for like 12 years or 13 years, and he's been working with guys from, you know, fucking Vietnam, some old ass dudes from Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan. So when people say that they feel like they can't connect with somebody that works at the VA because they're not a veteran and they don't understand the things that they're talking about,
Mhm.
um, that's total bullshit. Because yeah, maybe they haven't been in your shoes, but if they're gonna sit there and listen to stories from I mean, I did a program, and this guy has been working at the Jesse Brown VA Medical Center for 37 years or something, 36 years. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong with it. But anyways, he's been interviewing or working with World War II veterans, dude. You know what I'm
Nice.
saying? If that guy can be at the VA for that long and work with all these different eras of veterans and he gets nothing but positive feedback, like what would make a difference with any of us going? Like those guys are in there talking about their entire platoon getting wiped out in one day in Vietnam, and not to negate anybody's experiences of loss in Iraq, Afghanistan, or you know what I'm saying. But these doctors are pretty fucking educated and they're very competent. Even the counselors that have been there for 5, 10, 15 years. These people talk to veterans that have definitely heard your story or something similar to it before. You can't, you have to be ready for it, like you said.
Yeah,
But
you
there
have
there
to.
has to be,
You gotta
but
want. You gotta want to do it. You know what I mean?
and it's advocating for yourself, realizing that you
Right.
have an issue. And I'm not a mental health professional. I didn't go to college or any of it, but I've participated in quite a few things to see once I was at the point where I was ready to make a change, that's when it actually is like when I was consistent and routine with going and opening up a little bit more and opening up a little bit more. And uh, here I am about to put, my shit out there for everybody to see talking to you on the fucking internet. And if in the hopes with the hopes of somebody's going to watch it, we might plug a nonprofit organization or talking about being writing as a creative outlet and a outlet to release some fucking stress and some weight out of off your pack, that military terminology. But that can change somebody's life. And if there's like one thing that we say, if we're advocating for the veteran community and supporting the veteran community, especially the boys, like the guys that you served with, it could save somebody's life and change somebody's life. So that makes it worth it.
Yeah, I think that the whole poetry and writing and the veteran community. I mean, I say, and this is my own feedback to myself. Is like I say a lot of negative things on the veteran community itself, and I say a lot of like disparaging things on like podcasts and on shows of like the veteran community because honestly, God, it pisses me off how high performance we were and how low performing we are now. That is my biggest gripe with the veteran community. And it pisses me off because I feel like I'm upholding my end of the bargain, right? Like I'm going to school. I took advantage of my GI Bill because my friends, my roommate died. He can't take advantage of the fucking GI Bill, but I can. So I'm gonna hold up my end of the fucking bargain, and I'm gonna go take advantage of it. I
Right.
mean, whatever rationalization that you need to like put yourself forward, and it may not be university, it may be a trade school, it may be whatever the fuck it is, but use that
Yeah.
resource, for everybody. And that's my problem is that if I can do these things, other people can do them as well. And if
Right.
and I'm not saying, well, people go, well, you seem like you have whatever this and you have that. And I mean, I have a mom who loves me. Okay. My mom loves me to death, dude. That's not a lot of people have their mom. I understand that. You know what I mean? I get that. But my mom loves me and I have that and I'm thankful for that. Right. So like that's a big that's a big help in my life, right? My mom talked, she was a big pusher of like, yeah, maybe you need to go speak to like somebody at the vet center, you know what I mean? Like pushing me to go do certain things, and
Right.
without certain aspects of my life, like a lot of things wouldn't have happened, right? And I mean, my son is another big factor. If I would never have my son, I would have never like wanted to hold myself to a higher standard. And I'm griping about the veterans not doing it, and I'm saying that I'm doing it because I'm a veteran, but I'm really doing a lot of things I do. I mean, most of the things I do is because of my son, right? Is that at the end of the day, I honestly God thought I was gonna write one book, dude. I thought I was gonna write one book, and I was like, all right, well, that felt good. Like I'm good, I'm gonna write one, I'm done, like that was it. And once I found out on my first book tour that I was gonna have a child and I was gonna be a father, I was like, well, maybe I need to write more, and maybe I need to dive into this more. Maybe I need to express. Maybe I need to like instead of like building that door and then being like, damn, that's a cool door. Like with my first book, maybe actually like writing a second book and like taking the key and opening the door and then being like, all right, there's stuff here. Let's
Hmm.
explore this house a little bit, you know?
That's
And
a fucking great analogy. Not to cut that. I like that a lot. Or like that how you that's pretty good. I like
I
that.
mean that's effectively like what I that's like because I could have just turned my back and I could have just walked away from
Yep.
that door, you know, I just could have just kept living my life or whatever. But I had a son and I was like, I got to keep going and I had to keep building and I had to keep building on what I did, you know. And once he was on his first birthday, I was 3 books in at that point, I think. And on his first birthday, I was like, I got to go back to school. Like I'm doing physical manual labor every day, and I mean that's great for people, you know. But I've been blown up by IEDs. I've taken IDF. I mean, my back is shot out from going on rucks in the Marine Corps, going on humps in the Marine Corps, you know, and I've been hit by a car on my Harley. Like my back is fucked up, and like I don't know how much longer I can really like swing
It's
a
just
fucking
yeah.
weed eater around. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
8 hours or 7 hours a day or whatever it is. You know, it's you know when it's like, especially in South Florida, um, it's hot as fuck. You know, nonstop, and it's like a lot of people want you to wear long sleeves and stuff. So it's very, you know, and it was like I don't know, man. It just was like I was kind of like reliving those like Marine Corps days of like being in a truck and being hot and sweaty and being with the boys and like being out and
Yeah.
like being on patrol, you know. But I was like fucking on Palm Beach Island trimming up people's like grass and their trees and like doing like manual labor, you know. Like I don't know. I was like,
Still doing that like in the trench work, like out
yeah,
there getting yeah.
yeah. And I was like, and then I was like, but hang on, man. Like my third book just won an award. I'm technically like a national award winning poet
Yeah, I
and
was gonna ask, like, do you want to just like not to cut you off there, but can you like elaborate on that a little bit more about how that came to be?
yeah, I mean that was I mean the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation is a beautiful foundation. They built the Marine Corps Museum in Quantico. It's a beautiful museum. I mean all the proceeds that they get go directly to that museum and it's like it's incredible. You know they uphold Marine Corps legacy like unlike anybody's business. Like that's what they do. Like that's literally their job is to just like make sure that people know and understand like Marine Corps heritage and history. And as a Marine and as somebody who's been to the museum, you know, multiple times before I started writing my books, I thought, I knew that they had this awards program, and I looked just curiously to see if they had um, an award for poetry, and they did, and I was like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. So I submitted my first book, and then I lost to David Rose, and then he won that year, and then I submitted my third book, and my third book won. But like how it came to be was really just me being like inquisitive because I knew I had knowledge of the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation, and I enjoyed going to the museum a lot, you know, and I just was
Well,
like,
you,
that's
yeah, you took advantage of an opportunity. Like nobody told you about it. You like looked into it, you see it, you went out on a limb and, put the first book in. That didn't happen. It's the same thing with like you wrote them, you built the door, you opened the door, you looked inside and you saw the cool shit. If you would have turned your back on that and not gone inside, like that first way, that entry, that fatal funnel, as you walk in, the first thing that you see is that third book. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So if you wouldn't have gone in, I mean, like maybe that's a bad way of putting it, in terms of like
no, dude,
the fatal, but,
no, it works, it works.
but like that initial thing that you see is that third book, and then that third book did that for you. Can you explain a little bit about what the award is?
Yeah, so the Robert A. Gannon Award for Poetry is basically, it's given to a Marine that writes a body of work that's a published body of poetry, a body of like, however many poems it could be. And it needs to basically like exemplify and adhere to, you know, um upholding, like the highest traditions of like the Marine
I was
Corps,
just about to
making,
say like the end of the
yeah,
award
dude.
certificate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah.
effectively like that's really what it is, right? Like that's basically what it is. But like that ultimately, like the Marine Corps is all about tradition, bro. You know what I mean? And if you're gonna build something that lasts with legacy, you have to have tradition. You have to have some sort of like real understanding and a real belief in the system that you have. And the Marine Corps system is a beautiful system of warfighters that understands how to, conduct warfare on a level and scale that's, unrivaled on this fucking planet, dude. So at the end of the day, like if you can write poetry that, because it goes to a body of judges, it goes like it goes to a committee, and you don't know who's submitting their books as well. There might be people from Desert
Oh,
Storm or
so
Iraq.
you didn't pay these people off to give you this award. So
No,
let's just
no, not at all. I mean, they actually pay you when you win. They send you some money or whatever when you win. They give you like prize money. But I mean,
Wow,
it's a
nice.
national award.
Yeah.
It's a national nationally recognized thing. So at the end of the day, I what I wanted to do with my book that won the first award I won was uh the art of warrior poetry. And with that third book I wanted to, because that was like my dive into like, all right, I'm gonna, because my first two books outside the wire are very much like, again, these are my personal stories from Afghanistan,
Right.
like these ones are my personal stories. A lot of these poems are very personal to me. They're very like what I lived through via poetry,
Right.
and what I want to do with the art of warrior poetry was, when people read the book The Art of War, they get philosophy and they get all types of different understandings on how to actually conduct war.
Conduct warfare. Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
yeah.
what I wanted to do with the art of warrior poetry was give people something similar to that, but of war poetry.
Right. But these are, if I'm not mistaken, these are individual, like these are the originals photocopied on here when you wrote them, right? And
Yeah, dude.
then this is obviously you putting it in a print. And this entire book, the one that won the award, right? The Art of Warrior Poetry is the book that won the award, correct?
Yeah.
And
And the sun rises in
it's
Helmand, but this one, right? Yeah.
yeah, but like seeing it, right, and the raw, like the real thing,
Mhm.
um, I think that adds like the artistic perspective of it, of like coupling where it came from and like the drawing behind it too, like that's
Yeah.
like um it's fucking awesome, and anybody that listens to this, if you haven't checked out any of Justin's books, I highly recommend it because um it's a good insight excuse me on it. Your good insight on a lot of things that were experienced. Um, it's there's some funny stuff in there, personal stories, things that make you relate to it, and not only that, you're um supporting a veteran that is like doing something good. I know it's like some people they'll spend money on like a t-shirt or like, I mean, I'm guilty of that. I do buy hats and shirts and shit like that for guys that I think they have like a cool brand or a cool logo. But where the money goes with this, it's like it's supporting more of that to be able to come out, and it's going to keep fueling that and fueling that. And it shows a side of success as well, that you and we didn't even like get into I love the way that this flowed. I've never done it like this before. Usually I start like asking questions, but your
Well,
story has been told. Your
I'm
story has
such
been
a
told by
talkative
um
person, dude.
yeah, me too. And I like that because you and I have never met before in person. I mean, we've chatted a couple of times via text message and Instagram, and then here we are, and you can see that there's an obvious flow, and we're able to understand each other. Like the things that you're putting down, I'm able to pick up, and um, like continuing to do that, it can do the same thing with somebody else. And I'm harping on it again, the fact that you know, it can inspire and motivate and change somebody's thought process on certain things and be able to get them out there. But I want to, I don't know, we've been at this for like an hour and a half. We did it kind of backwards, but it's natural and it's real, and that's what's supposed to be grasped, right? Like that's the point of it. Like, did you sit down and pre-plan, all of these things before you wrote them? That's not the way that it worked. I mean, I'm sure that you had to think back on things, but in the heat of the moment, you wrote it down and it came out natural and it came out the way it was supposed to. And obviously it did something because it won awards, people are buying them, and it's made an impact. So, um, I think we should do another one at some
A
point,
part
and
do a part two.
a part two, but like a part one. We'll go over the actual process that got you to where you're at today, the journey, I should say. And I
Mm.
know there's ups and downs along the way. It's been told before, but maybe it reaches somebody different, and also, maybe there's something that you haven't. Maybe something you just remembered, or ask a question in a different way. And I think it'd be cool to, share some experiences, coming up in life, growing up and going through the Marine Corps and shit, and getting to where we are now. And
Oof.
I just want to say I appreciate you coming on, hanging out, bullshitting, and it's good to see that there's knowing now these books that I've bought, and I didn't just buy these, like I've had these for a while,
Yes, yeah, dude.
and
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
read through them, and uh, I'm glad to meet the dude and talk to the dude that does it, because it's inspiring to me as well.
Well, dude, I appreciate it, man. I really do. I mean, it's honestly like you said some things earlier that hit me in my heart, man. You said some, just like nice shit about my poetry, you know what I mean? Which is, I guess I don't think I hear it enough, I guess. I don't know. I don't hear it, period. You know what I mean? Like it's not a
Yeah.
thing. People don't talk about my books in my life. Like I work and nobody talks about my books. It's not like a thing. It's not like I'm saying like, oh, I want people to like praise, the poetry we're saying, but I'm just saying that I'm respecting, and I'm also like I'm a very appreciative of to like hear that, you know what I'm saying? Like to like
Yeah,
hear
dude.
somebody say, you know what I'm saying? Like it's nice, man. So yeah, dude, I do appreciate it. And writing the poetry is yeah, it's fun, man. We'll definitely have to do it again. And then talk about like, other shit, I guess. But not other shit, but like in a better in a more of a in a more cohesive way. Because again, I like it even right now. I just talk, dude, and like I go down.
No, it's fine. It's
There's
the
never
way it's
one road
supposed to
for me to
be.
go down, dude.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, you found your path. You're doing what you love. It seems like you're enjoying being a dad, and it's given you some more purpose. We covered a lot of stuff, and I think that it's just good to show the success. That's the whole point of this, is that we didn't even cover the highs and the lows and what brought that to be, but I would assume that people can obviously start to understand, or at least think of where it's coming from. And obviously you can go to Brian Bashow's show, I Got Your Six podcast, and you've done 2 episodes with him. And if you're anticipating on hearing how Justin got to where he's at, you can go to Brian's show and check that out, and hear that yourself. So I hope we get you on again, dude. I really do. I enjoyed talking with you, and it's good to make that connection.
Yeah, I agree. And send me your address so I can send you some stuff for your shelves right there.
All right, will do. I appreciate that, dude. And guys, thanks again to Justin Eggen for coming on, award-winning poet and author of which won the first award, The Art of Warrior Poetry. Check it out. I'm sure you can get it on Amazon, Justin's website. Actually, go to his website. It's in his Instagram. I'll tag you and everything, so everybody knows where to go. And again, thanks for your time, and thank you for your service, and thank you for what you continue to do, and
And
putting that good shit out there, dude.
thank you, dude. Thank you so much for having me on. I do genuinely appreciate it.
All right. And that was the Pressing Forward podcast with Justin Eggen.